To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the Send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press Enter or Send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
If we had only listened to him, if today we could get our children to listen and learn, if only we had an ounce of the tons of pride that he taught us to have in ourselves. Yes, food prices are running away. Post-burial, that is. Police killings are up sharply. Crime stalks the land. These are just issues we're going to discuss today. A week ago, we had the worst mass shooting in our history. And so it goes on. It's August 18, 2024. Good day. This is the 132nd episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. I'm Frankly McKnight. And my co-presenters today are Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson-Brown. Mary White is off. Our special guest today is Patrick Maitland, editor and publisher of the Agriculturalist magazine and one of the foremost analysts on Jamaica's agriculture. And that's where we will start today, on agriculture. Beryl has exposed, Hurricane Beryl that is, has exposed the frailties of the agricultural sector, of the industry. It's a weak industry and has been so for years. Agriculture continues to contribute nearly 8% of the gross domestic product and employs some 20% of Jamaica's population, mainly at subsistence levels, mainly at subsistence wages. For years, we have been talking of its potential, and yet we can't even feed ourselves. Red peas, mutton, beef, basic staples, including rice, are all imported. Citrus has essentially disappeared. One market last week I saw limes for $1,000 a dozen. Limes. In the face of grave scarcity and the tripling of vegetable and some tuber prices in weeks since Beryl, we'll almost surely be importing carrot, tomatoes, lettuce, sweet pepper, among others. We're talking about that struggling industry today. It's been struggling for many years. Patrick Maitland is he back with us now?
Yes, sir.
Patrick, tell us why Jamaicans should not be worried about agriculture, food security, and just the industry.
Well, ironically, our domestic food production has been on an increase trajectory. It's keep going up. Last year it was at 778,000 ton, but in 2022 it was 846,000 ton. That was the highest it has reached. And indications are that despite the hurricane, we should also have a bumper crop in 2024 of the domestic food crop. We're talking about vegetables, yam, the wide range of local stuff. right? So food wise will be there. I think the production will be there. We would have a shortage of a lot of the meat stuff, right? Still gonna be importing a lot of other meats, chicken to an extent, beef. Gonna be importing a lot of those food as well. But overall, I think the production should remain normal. Not that it is good, but it should remain normal.
So when are we going to get to the levels that we can really just cut out some of the imports, reduce some of the imports, and get the industry on a level that make Jamaicans able to afford some of those foods that we're talking about?
And not only that, when are we going to what Patrick must address? He has been talking about agriculture for decades. What Patrick and others must address: when are we going to move agriculture to a point where it becomes lucrative, where it becomes to the point where farmers can enjoy a decent living, where farmers can produce crops which they can sell and earn a decent living, and where the sector becomes attractive. Right now, the average age of the 200,000 farmers are people in their 60s. Young people are not going in. When are we going to do something to make agriculture attractive?
Well, Desmond, as soon as the government of Jamaica and the taxpayers agree to give some resources to farmers, similar to what is being given to and let's talk about it all the while, to the tourism industry, and really put in some basic resort. One, look at loan. We are not even lending farmers money to invest. So the investment is like 140 odd million last year, right? I think the year before, last year, and this year I don't know if it's gonna be much. And look at it, our government has a minister who is going all over the world, taking the little investors that we have, bringing them to other places, introducing them to other investment opportunity. So until we start to really invest in Jamaican agriculture, it's gonna be tough. The next thing is you have to understand is that the import is really affecting farming, and it's much easier, more economical for people to import a lot of produce. You remember at one time, Lasco, for example, built a whole big company out of importing milk powder and just flood the market. And what happened 10, 20 years after, our dairy industry is now like 20, 30% of what it was 20 years ago. And so I can give you many examples of things, but the farmers themselves must be held accountable too. I think the farmers must work together to see to it that they get the necessary resources to market their produce and to really get things going, But it's
you can't be serious that the man who has 1 acre up in Golden Spring or up in Cave Valley in Golden Spring in St. Andrew or Mavis Bank up in St. Andrew, that farmer must compel the government to make sensible policies for him to earn a living.
No, I'm not talking about the little farmer like that. Because just as we're not going to be talking about the man with him 2 and 3 hotel room, like a hotel room, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a big operation, not less than a 10 or 20 acre, right? And hold on, there's hold on. So what happened to that you're forgetting? Over the years, the government keep taking away the farmland. Look at Portmore. Right? It started in the 70s when Manley take away the farmland and build house. And it continues up to now, up to recently, government take another portion of the same farmland. Right? So you have to remember that the urban lands are going. Right now, the sugar industry is gone. And we have about 300,000-400,000 acres of land basically idle. And why? because somebody's thinking about it, how to put housing in it, how to do something apart from agriculture. And that's part of the problem we're having. We do not have a national accord to say we believe in agriculture, we believe in this. Nothing. It's a knee-jerk reaction to stuff. So we have this big hurricane. Government did a good job in helping to get farmers back on their feet. But after that, what happened to the sector? It just
Basil, remember that the majority of farmers, the majority of the Jamaican farmers are the small farmers, you know.
Yeah, but in every farming environment, you're gonna find a lot of small players. That's normal, yes. Right? But there were a time when, over the last 20 years, we lost about 100 middle-sized to large companies that were in agriculture. So what happened? Why they closed? Various reasons. Jamaica Producers, for example, closed its banana farm and opted to Dominica Republic to set up its farm, right? Because they figure it's more economical. Grace Kennedy used to be big in some level of farming. They just can now. They just buy produce some other places, can it, and put the Grace label on it. Give us the impression that these producers are from Jamaica, right? A whole lot of things are going on in agriculture that.
I see ginger tea coming from China.
That's right.
For Jamaican consumers.
Ginger. All right. Talking about that. So I was just looking at the import data, and one of the single largest import items on it. Well, the largest import item is really animal feed. We import $114 million worth of raw material for animal feed, but they put it in the food category. But the second largest food import is what they call food preparation. What is this? A whole range of stuff. You have juices. You saw these juices a guy drinking. Oh, natural. They're all imported.
You mean the concentrates?
All the concentrates. You have a lot of little. You have garlic powder. You have ginger powder. All the ginger drink you're drinking, it's just some powder come in, they mix it up and give it to you. Right? A whole lot of
milk. Come to some of the remedies that you would put on the table, Patrick. And I think Desmond wants to come back in. But before you come to some of the remedies put on the table, we see or we hear reports that we're now going to GM seeds, a lot of the seeds and hybrid seeds.
It has
and the spraying of crops, which essentially is to remove the traditional Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah, yes. What's your impression of that? And what's the truth on that?
That's not a big problem for us per se. It has been going on because remember, hybrid usually have other features, and that's what they call GM now. Because when you create a hybrid product, you remove some genes, remove some elements and you add stuff that one prevents certain insect from touching it, to allow the product to grow fast and to have a certain color that the market would like. So the GM has been around a long time, right? It has been, but we still have a lot of the traditional ways. Most of the produce we have now are still being grown and produced with the local seed. So it's mainly like melon, tomato, cabbage. You will find more GM in that area. But
we're seeing a lot of produce not ripening in the way that they used to. And that a lot of the fruits. Well, it seems, I don't know what the statistics are, but it seems that a lot of fruit and vegetables which are found among small farmers and households and so forth, that those are not doing as well as they used to.
Well, as I said, it's mainly tomato I know of so far. Tomato, melon. I think they have cucumber in it too, right? But listen, it's not gonna stop for now in terms of they keep crossbreeding to get the best product out there to meet the needs of the market. It's not gonna stop, right? It just consumers have to decide whether or not they want that one, But the commercialization of it really just not gonna stop, and I don't think that's the problem we have. Problem we have.
Jump in. When you're going to tell us what some comments now are, but you go ahead.
one of the issues that we have in Jamaica as it relates to the development of our agricultural sector is that too many of the policymakers are also involved. They are importers, right? Right now, the main importers, some of the main importers in Jamaica have chicken back and chicken parts are legislators. So the legislators and their friends in decision making in the private sector, they are the ones who control the import sector. So as a result of that, you are not going to find the government playing the role that it ought to play in the development of the agricultural sector. Unless the only time you will get that, they will have to decide that the policy makers, ministers and members of parliament will have to stop being the main importers of chicken back and other meat products and other agricultural products into the country.
Desmond,
before you proceed, I think although Owen Richards was before, there's a question from Hugh Johnson saying, can Patrick explain the difference between GMO and hybrid seeds? So let's try and answer this question, Patrick.
So GMO refer to genetically modified. And what happened is that the genes have been modified or altered. And when they do that, they produce the offspring or whatever comes. There'll be some changes according to what they want. So let's say you want let's say you want a watermelon that is very sweet. They find some way of altered the gene to make sure that the watermelon is sweet. Or let's say they want it to be blue and yellow. They find some ways to alter it to change the color. The hybrid now is a little different. With hybrid, they would use different combination of seeds, like different varieties. They put it together and to get the best result. You know,
and
so
isn't it true that many of our farmers are getting these seeds now, which prevent every time you have a crop, you have to
brand new seed. Yes,
brand new seeds. You cannot plant like previously following years.
Right, because they are hybrid. So
it makes us dependent on the supply of the seeds, which are overseas normally.
Right, because what happened is that you know the genetics goes. So after you plant that seed, a new generation would come up. Those seeds that result from the plants that you put in. They put in a seed, it grows, do what it needs to do, but the seeds, the offspring, is a little different from the original. And what is different is not what we want. We want the original seeds. So that's why they have to keep buying new seeds. It cannot be, it will not remain, what they call it, is it prototype? It will not remain, I don't remember my genetics, but it will not remain the same as the traditional seeds that when you plant them, whatever come up, it's going to be like the previous one.
All right, so we have 2 minutes to wrap this section. Go ahead, Winnie. You were reading from...
No, I was about to say the health part of it is a different story for a different program. But it's important to acknowledge Owen Richards, who says seems like the government does not have control over imports. Here it is now. If one company is allowed to flood the market, thus depressing local markets. That's a comment from Owen Richards.
Well, let me tell you, I wouldn't say government don't have control. What has happened over the last, I would say, 30 years, the government has had various shifts in terms of its import policy, right? So as it relates to agriculture, though, the permit is granted by the Ministry of Agriculture, or the Minister's Office.
The import permit.
The import permit for food. So you want to import some food, you fill out an application form from the I think it's the economic unit in the ministry, and it is packaged, goes to the desk of the minister, and they look at it and say, okay, yes, go ahead with it. But what I think has been the missing element.
The average guy can't get in there, so don't panic. The average guy can't get in there, so but you go ahead.
The average won't be able to. But my point is, over the years, it has not been transparent. So it has not been transparent, and there's always been allegations of political biasness. So when the JLP is in power, you see a set of importers line up. When the PNP is in power, you see a set of importers line up.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Right, and so that level of transparency has never been there, right? And nobody seemed to want to make a stop to it. I know there have been some effort to say, okay, we're gonna get it transparent and this and that, but to me, up to now, we have not been able to let it be transparent. To say, you know how it should be done, just like how America and some other place would do it. So they work it out and say, we need 50 pounds of yam. We need to import 50 pounds of onion. We need 100 pounds of tomato. We need this, right? And they put it out and say, all right, permit will be granted for 50 pounds of tomato. Good? And that's it. It has to be planned, but they are not planning anything. It has to be properly planned, and it should be something that you forecast it. There's a forecast to say, based on what is in the ground, based on what the perception of the farmers are saying, we are going to short of tomato this year, and the shortage is going to be 20 ton. So therefore, permit will be granted for 20 ton and open it to the market, right?
Well, Patrick, you have so much you're educating us on, but I have to ask you this very quickly because we're wrapping up now. We only have 2 minutes maximum to finish this segment. What has happened to citrus? Why are no oranges available? Oranges were going for 1,500 in markets last week. I saw this. What has happened to that industry? Why are we just drinking concentrate in the main in Jamaica now?
So citrus has two major diseases that is affecting it. The citrus greening. And this is a bacterial disease that really affects production. In some cases, the trees are like 100% died. And this includes trees that were grafted on the sour orange stock. And then you have another disease named the citrus tristeza virus. You know, another major disease. You know, it really ravaged industry. And we also lost the Citrus Growers Association for some reason. And then the land space for citrus requires some level of land. And because so many lands have been taken out of agriculture, citrus gets squeezed.
So we're going to be left to drinking citrus concentrate.
Right, but one of the major problem though is the predial larceny. So a lot of guys with citrus field will tell you that they are losing 40-50% of the citrus every year to predial thieves. So but I know I heard of some plans to revive it. So let's hope we get it back.
Patrick, we want Desmond, unless you have a final word, we're going to wrap up with Patrick here.
Agriculture. I am not hopeful for the growth of agriculture in Jamaica and the current policies and the way the governments are treating agriculture. I'm not hopeful for it.
Winnie, I see you shaking your head. You are in agreement with that.
I'm not hopeful either, and I don't want to prolong this, but I have a different perspective, seeing that I grew up in a farming community and we still have some small farmers in our area. Yeah.
But let me just say one last thing.
Sure.
You see, even if you have a change of government tomorrow, the PNP won't settle agriculture. What is it? No. That's what I want you to understand that. What I think is happening, I think
from when you break it down to a political.
It is a political. It is political. From 19.
No. The agriculture in Jamaica is a serious issue nationally.
Okay.
Nationally, and it is banging along.
All right.
And it just It's not. It's going. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere significant.
I'll tell you why. It's a political reason, because in 1972, Jamaica stopped. From 1970, Jamaica stopped focus on agriculture. The government at the time, JLP was in power. They decided to shift to tourism, and a huge amount of resources were used to construct hotels, which is good. You have to diversify the economy. And Michael Manley came in the 70s. He did not put a cent in agriculture. What he did, he take away the land and give it to political cronies. He mashed up the sugar industry. That's from the time the sugar industry started to be demolished.
Rubbish. That is rubbish.
That's not rubbish. So what happened is that...
That is not true. That is not true.
I'm not to do that debate, Patrick, because that debate...
And it continues right through...
No, that is not true. That is not true.
Those last comments. Okay.
That is not true.
Desmond says it's not true, and we're going to take 5
minutes
debate next week.
Yes,
Can you give us those comments that came in and we'll move on?
Sugar industry declined by 30% in the 70s.
I'm take that debate today. Winnie, you want to touch those last comments that came in?
No, I just want to say that Marva has come in as well. Marva Hewitt. She says if we cannot feed, she asked 2 questions. I started the first one. If we cannot feed ourselves, what is going to happen to us? That's a question from Marva Hewitt. And she had another. What's the role of RADA when all our cities are being affected and lost through virus? So I think it's wise to answer that because time is almost gone.
Before you close out, Franklin, I want
this segment because we have 2 comments from you. Go ahead.
I want our listeners and viewers to know that as we speak, I think it's 106 police shootings since the start of the year. And
yes,
the most important...
You go ahead, Desmond. You are making that point. Go ahead.
And the most important thing that I want them to know, that not all of those who were killed by the police were gunmen. No. For example, a 14-year-old boy is among those killed. Women, right? Mentally ill people. People with cutlasses and stone are among those who were killed by the police this year. Now, we know that if gunmen challenge the security forces, then there's a price to pay for that. But the rate of police shootings this year is not good.
Desmond, we got some figures from Indicom in preparing for the show, and Indicom says that since the start of the year, 106 people have been shot and killed by the security forces, most of them by the police. 106 people, Jamaicans. Up to Thursday, August 15, 16 fatal shootings have been recorded for this month of August. There are lots of issues with it, Desmond, but give me a response to this quickly because we have to take it. What do you say about the fact that the Jamaicans, what we're seeing from a lot of Jamaicans now is a fearlessness in the face of the security forces, a viciousness in the crimes being committed, and a response from the security forces that is tending to meet their maker, meet their judge comments by the Prime Minister. What's your view on that, briefly?
No, one of the things that we have to decide, is that are we decide that we are in a democratic country that abides by law and order? If we agree to that, then we have to play by the rules. If we agree that we are living in a country, you have the past where you don't have law and order, then you can also decide. But once we are in a society where we have law and order, that is what we must agree to. So gunmen, nobody is saying that gunmen must be allowed. With gunmen challenges.
Must be powdered. That's man, we gotta leave it there, We gotta leave it there. I understand. Yeah. We understand the points you're making, and we're glad that you made it. Winnie, our apologies to you. You wanted to mention AI being available for many purposes, including the fact that people can be counseled and communities can be counseled. Patrick Maitland. And we will return to this business, Patrick. And we thank Winnie, Anderson Brown, Desmond Richards, and our great man behind the scene, Mr. Joshua Black, who keeps pulling us together. Thank you all. My name is Franklin McKnight. Until then.